It's at Shea Stadium once more, and the reason they've come out on this Friday evening is because their hero will be on the hill as the Mets open up a 3-game set against the Montreal EXPOS. It will be David Cone in his return in a Mets uniform facing Montreal's Tomo Ohka. And it was just before 4 o'clock this afternoon that Cone made his way down the hallway from the bullpen area toward the clubhouse, stopping for a moment to say hello to some old friends before he went in, found his locker, and got ready for his start this evening. So despite the weather, there's a sense of anticipation as we go upstairs to Howie Rose and Fran Healy, who will be on the call of tonight's game as Cone continues to get ready.
Joined the Mets from the Kansas City Royals. He was younger looking. He had the overpowering fastball. Watch this nasty slider. And let's not forget the Laredo. He was a power pitcher, a strikeout pitcher, and at times intimidating.
Yeah, that one dominant season for the Mets back in 1988 when he went 20-3. And then he went from being a power pitcher to more of a finesse-style pitcher, from gas to guile, if you will.
In spring training, he showed it. He's able to mix in that Laredo. The slider's not as sharp. He does it with intelligence and finesse. There he pitched the perfect game against the Montreal EXPOS, who, by the way, he'll be pitching against tonight once again. But David Cone pitching the World Series. He faced Mike Piazza. We saw him in spring training, as I mentioned, working on his control and trying to strengthen his arm. Should be an interesting night here at Shea Stadium. That's a look at David Cone, his last major league team, the Boston Red Sox. So David Cone, after a solid spring training, is back at Shea against the EXPOS tonight.
Threw 93 pitches his last time out during spring training, and even though you can't possibly expect the kind of overpowering performance from Cone that he was so adept at providing early in his career, one thing about David Cone, he still has that wide assortment and variety of pitches that can combat even the elements such as we have tonight. When we get
just a moment ago, greeted by a standing ovation from the fans here at Shea, David Cone made his way from the bullpen, joined by pitching coach Vern Rule, as he prepares for his first start in his second go-round in a Mets uniform. David Cone pitched for the Mets in the late 80s and early 90s. On August 2nd, 1992, while Tom Seaver was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, Cone was winning his final game in a Mets uniform. A brilliant performance against Chicago, 8 innings of work, 8 strikeouts. Tonight, the adrenaline will be flowing without question.
I certainly will be nervous. I'll have some butterflies. It'll be tremendously exciting again to walk out at Shea Stadium, where really I grew up as a Met. I spent the majority of my career as a Met. Not people realize that, but the 6 years with the Mets was really a learning experience for me, and a lot of good years in there, and a lot of great memories as well. So, you know, as I said before, this is really full circle for me. It really feels right, and I probably won't know how I'm going to react till I walk out there, but it's a tremendous gift at this point in my career. You know, having been out a year, I really view this as not only a great opportunity and that I'm thankful for, but it really is a gift.
So David Cone just a few moments away from his first pitch back with the New York Mets. And we'll have that and all the action tonight right after this.
I wonder if David Cone realizes that it's cold and rainy, because he said before the game, as he did in spring training, the adrenaline is going to be what pushes him through the early tests. And you've got to think it's racing through his body, perhaps at a record pace right now, Fran.
Boy, this is certainly back to the future with David Cone on the mound throwing for the New York Mets. Coneheads are in attendance. And as you mentioned, the weather here, Howie, and right now, David Cone, I'm sure, isn't concerned about that. There are the Coneheads.
And, you know, we talk about the adrenaline. Let's not, you know, kid ourselves. This is not the biggest start of his career, but it's the first one after a full year off. And this is the lineup he'll face, brought to you by Ford. The Expos managed by Frank Robinson, who's happy to have that man, Vladimir Guerrero, back in the lineup. It's Endy Chavez and then Jose Vidro, Guerrero, Leifer, Cabrera, Wilkerson, Tatis, Schneider, and Ohka against 40-year-old David Brian Cone. His first appearance for the Mets in almost 11 years, Fran.
See his numbers, 3.44 ERA. Keep in mind, he pitched his perfect game against these Expos And they did have Guerrero and Vidro and Cabrera on that ball club. So Coney's aware of who he's pitching against. He needs some help from his defense. You see it. And it's Vaughn, Alomar, Sanchez, and Wigginton in the infield, left or right in the outfield. Floyd, Cedeno, Burnitz, Wilson behind the plate. We're set to go.
So David Cone begins his comeback now. And it's right down the middle, a fastball that tops out at 85 miles per hour.
Even though he's 40 years old, as you mentioned, Howie, he has those butterflies. He's ready to go. Watch him before the ball game. You could see the butterflies surrounding David Cone.
And he gets the ground ball to Alomar. Quickly, one man away.
Well, the key for David Cone right there, and he knows it with all his experiences. Get the ball over the plate, get that first out, and the butterflies will start, the leads will become more relaxed. Here's the location of that pitch to Chavez, and he gets him to pull the ball. Gets him out in front, pulls the ball to the right side.
So here's Jose Vidro now against Cone. Vidro, the all-star second baseman for the National League last year, and he takes a sinker away for ball one. See Vidro trying to protect himself against the elements. At game time, the temperature very difficult to manage, 37 degrees. 2-0. And Fran, I asked Cone before the game if any of his pitches would be compromised before the game because of the elements. And he said he didn't know until he got out and threw some and got a feel for what was going to work and what wasn't. He gets another ground ball to second here. Alomar throws him out 2 men away.
Exact same pitch. He gets Vidro to go out there and pull that ball that he ran away from Vidro. You see the temperature, 32 degrees.
Now, Fran, as a former catcher, you've worked with other pitchers in conditions like these. You know David's arsenal. Doesn't throw as hard as he used to, but he still has a large variety of pitches. Which would he figure to have to put on a shelf early because of the weather?
Well, you know, obviously it's going to affect the feel of the baseball. As you look at Frank Robinson, I remember when Frank didn't care about the weather. But look at him! You know, it's funny talking about those pitches. Right now, David Cone feels very comfortable. There's the breaking ball to Guerrero.
A good one.
You see how he pitches Guerrero. He got the first two hitters hit the fastball away, and they pulled it.
Guerrero, you're the man.
Outfield straightaway against Guerrero, and a breaking ball 0-2.
Now David, who has a lot of experience in major leagues, you don't want to give Guerrero a good pitch 0-2. That's a bad ball. And Guerrero's a free swinger who, by the way, makes good contact.
One ball and 2 strikes on Vladimir Guerrero.
Still don't give him anything to hit. He chased a bad ball already. It was a breaking ball.
1-2. And the strikeout completed by the tag. Back to the future, David. And the Mets are coming up. It's more, of course, than simply adrenaline, but David Cone reached back by working a perfect 1-2-3 inning in his first inning in the big leagues since October the 6th of 2000 as a member of the Boston Red Sox. And now we'll see if the Met bats can feed off of Cone's momentum, as this lineup, brought to you by Ford, features Cedeno, Alomar, and Floyd. With Vaughn back in the lineup, Piazza still suspended this game 3 of that suspension. Wigginton, and then the hustling Jeremy Burnitz, who's had a few hits over the first few games. Wilson, Sanchez, and Cone, the bottom of the order, against Tomo Ohka, who had a terrific year last year, going 13-8 for Montreal. And a fastball off the plate away, 1-0.
You saw Ohka's numbers from last year. Ohka from Japan, one of 14 Expo players from places other than the United States.
1-1 to Roger Cedeno. Ohka's not going to overpower you. He'll barely get up to 90. That last fastball was at 88. He throws a pretty good curve.
The Expos 3-0 in a season. They just swept the Atlanta Braves.
Swept them and pounded them 17-2.
And their key was they scored 7 runs in the first inning. 7 runs collectively in all 3 games. They got ahead of the Braves.
Cedeno fouls it off, and interestingly, Fran, the Mets fell behind in each of the 3 games against the Chicago Cubs here by allowing first inning runs in every game. So the Coneheads have been dusted off. And they have to like what they saw in the first inning. And now Tomo Ohka, 20-25 lifetime, 0-3 last year in 5 starts against the Mets. And he jams Cedeno. It's still 2-2.
You watch Roger Cedeno, sometimes he opens up so quickly that he has to slow his bat down. Take a look at him again now. He opens that front side, and then he has to slow the bat down so he doesn't get it through the hitting zone.
2-2 pitch. And it's lined the other way. Cedeno with a leadoff base hit.
Stayed back well on that ball. Ball is out over the plate. And Cedeno slapped it to left field. Now behind Ohka in the infield. Leaper, Vidro, Cabrera, and Tatis. Left to right in the outfield, Wilkerson, Chavez, and Guerrero. Schneider behind the plate. Guerrero, by the way, one of the best throwing outfielders in the game. And the Expos, I believe, had about 43 outfield assists last year.
So here's Alomar. Now, we should talk about the running game on a night like this. Cedeno not running on the first pitch. What does this kind of weather do? Does it tend to take some of your aggressiveness away, or do you want to force the catcher to throw the ball?
I think as a runner, you can be aggressive. The cold air would have more of an effect on the pitcher and the catcher as far as throwing the ball to second base. But if you take it to the opposition, make that defense be aggressive.
Cedeno not running, and the 1-0 pitch bounced down to first. Bobbled by Leafer, and down to second goes Cedeno, 1 man away.
In the first 3 games, the Mets did not attempt a stolen base.
Cliff Floyd just 1 out of 11. Had 1 hit, a home run in the middle game of the 3-game series. That came off of Matt Clement of the Chicago Cubs.
And Art Howe knows that his team has to get out and get some runs early. Like you said the other day, once Floyd hit that 2-run home run, we didn't look back. That was against the Cubs.
So Cedeno in scoring position with 1 man out. Outfield plays Floyd to pull. Big gap in left center. And a bouncer foul. 0-1 to Floyd. I was surprised, Fran, to hear Floyd say after the game yesterday, yeah, I'm pressing. 1 for 11. It's 3 games. Relax.
Well, the thing is, you know, it's a new ball club. You saw Mo Vaughn last year press when he was struggling. So Floyd wants to get off to a good start with the Mets. He has been wired throughout spring training in anticipation of playing in New York.
He's a good enough hitter so that it should just come to him, you know?
It's never that easy. That's the problem.
Up here it is. 0-2 to Floyd.
Up here it's so easy. How can he miss that?
Jay Bell, another veteran, talking to yesterday's losing pitcher, Steve Trexler.
Jay Bell spent a few years in Arizona. Now he's in New York, getting used to the weather right now.
Well, he did play in Pittsburgh the bulk of his career, so he's got some frame of reference, but this is extreme tonight. And the 0-2 to Floyd, line towards left center. Chavez going over, and the wing kept that up. And so there are 2 men away. Not only up, but it also kept the ball from shooting to the gap, because that had Gapper written all over it.
Now, one thing you got to be careful of when you're a defensive player, it's wet here. You know, it's misting right now. As you take a look at Floyd hitting that ball to center field. Ball just died when they get out there. Chavez making the play. But when the ball's moist, look at this. I guess he doesn't want to get frostbite in his nose.
You would think. I guess he's breathing through his mouth.
That's new right there. Very, very new.
Andy Chavez, former Met farmhand, and I do not understand the idea behind the headband on the nose. We'll have to find out about that after the game. So here's Mo Vaughn. 0-1 to Mo, who has owned Tomo Ohka. 8 out of 12 with 3 home runs against him.
Ohka was a member of the Bo Sox at one time. He ended up coming to the Montreal EXPOS when Montreal gave up Ugi Urbina.
No balls, 1 strike to Mo. They pull the infield around. And a breaking ball in the dirt to Vaughn. 1 ball and 1 strikes. See the way the infield is here. A little bit different from the way Dusty Baker played it. He had his shortstop over on the shortstop side of the bag, and the third baseman into the hole. This is a more drastic overshift.
Well, base hit right here in that hole. It's an RBI. And Mo Vaughn, well, I'm telling you, over the years, he has used the left field. He's not one of those guys that pulls the ball every time. How about
Ohka stays away. It's 2-1.
you hit it on the nose, stayed away. So they pitch him away. If Mo goes with the pitch, he hits the ball left field, drives in a run. If you're going to play him to pull, you might as well try and get in his kitchen.
So Wigginton waiting on deck. Cedeno, excellent speed and scoring position. And a breaking ball, 2-2.
So Tomo Ohka, who's not overpowering, drops,
huh?
he drops that ball. Looked like he might have either a straight change or a splitter to Mo Vaughn. Got him way out in front. When you see big guys at the plate, you tend not to shy away from that fastball unless you have an overpowering heater.
And Ohka does not. So the 2-2 on the way. And it's in there for a called strike 3. He slipped the fastball by Vaughn.
Froze him.
Not difficult to do tonight. But David Cohn's hot. He'll go back to work. David Cohn's return comes 1 day shy of exactly 20 years to the day that Tom Seaver came home to Shea. Ed Koch stuck around, well, probably for the top of the first. Seaver marched in from the bullpen to a standing ovation. Would induce a double play. Gilby Brooks to Brian Childs to Dave Kingman. And the Mets wound up winning that opening day game against the Phillies 2-0.
And what Tom will tell you is when he made the comeback later on in his career, he learned he was a more of a finesse pitcher as opposed to most of his career where he was just absolutely overpowering.
Jeff Leefer, the cleanup batter that picked him up from the White Sox in the Bartolo Colon deal, went around on that pitch. It's 0-1. And Leefer had a good series against the Braves. He drove in 5 runs. Never forget that opening day when Seaver faced the Phillies. He struck out Pete Rose to start the game and got a standing ovation, and was just brilliant for 6 innings. Doug Sisk wound up getting the win in relief. Remember Mike Howard?
Absolutely.
He had the base hit that drove in the runs. That came later in the game after Seaver had departed. 2 balls and 1 strike to Leefer.
A key right here for David Cohn. Get in that strike zone. Get ahead, then throw bad balls, bad breaking balls. Get those hitters overly aggressive, chasing bad pitches out of the strike zone.
You know, David talked yesterday at his workout at Cyclones at Keyspan Field in Brooklyn, the home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, about symmetry and the fact that even though he technically started with the Royals, he really began his career here in New York. He talked about the symmetry of finishing it here. Full count, not a Leefer. Well, I'll tell you what else is symmetrical. His very first start as a Met came on April 27th, 1987 against the Astros here at Shea. And the weather conditions were almost identical to those of tonight. Line down the right field line, foul. And Fran, he was saying he remembered it before the game as though it were yesterday. He said, I pitched 5 innings and I gave up 10 runs. And I had to stay in and work 5 because the bullpen had been spent. So David Cohn felt that he had to extend himself that night. So that'll probably be a little bit different. Inside, ball 4.
Oh, right there, he didn't get ahead of the hitter, so when you go 3-2, you got to throw the ball over the plate. David Cohn misses. Leefer goes to first base.
So he will not pitch a second career perfect game against the Expos. Orlando Cabrera, the obviously chilled Montreal shortstop. Slow start offensively. Can't say that about the Expos, though. Scored 17 runs in those 3 games against the Braves. So the Mets will look for 2 on the infield. And Cabrera bunts foul.
David Cohn getting ahead of Cabrera. Cabrera, a couple of years ago, had a great year with those Expos. Frank Robinson loves them. They got some talent on this ball club. They're going to play a lot of their games in Puerto Rico.
As Brad Wilkerson on deck. 22 games out of the 81 home games for the Expos will be played in San Juan.
Starts next week with the Mets.
4 games there. Breaking ball stopped by Wilson. 1 ball, 1 strike. No advance by Leifert. All of the pitchers, of course, under conditions like this, cone heads or no cone heads, have the option of blowing on their hands.
You know, it's going to be interesting. I know they really don't draw anybody in Montreal, but whoever they did draw, you wonder how offended they will be at their team playing in Puerto Rico. I mean, they really don't have a fan base anymore. They did.
Well, they won't call Montreal home after this year in all likelihood. Of course, we've said that before. Breaking ball and a strike, gets 1 and 2.
Talk about getting ahead, and he could throw that breaking ball. And Cabrera clearly thought that ball was going to break out of the strike zone. It was borderline.
David got a couple of ground balls in the first inning. He'd love one here. Got him. The slider to get Cabrera.
And he got ahead. You get ahead, you get hitters to be overly aggressive, and you get the cone heads excited. Once again, that breaking ball. And Cabrera, who's usually well-disciplined at the plate, with those 2 strikes, you got to protect the dish. It's a nasty slider. Hits the plate and goes off.
Now it's Brad Wilkerson, who finished 2nd in the Rookie of the Year balloting in the National League last year. Jason Jennings, pitcher for the Colorado Rockies, won it. Cohen just misses away. 1 ball and no strikes.
On the Montreal press guide, it's all about a former Met who's going into the Hall of Fame as an Expo. The kid, Gary Carter.
Fastball for a strike. It's 1 and 1.
David Cohn caught a break.
Sinker ran off the plate, but it's 1 and 1 to Wilkerson. And a breaking ball broke his batter, so it sounds, on a foul ball.
Broke his bat, and again he's out in front, 1 and 2.
I can't recall yet in this game, Fran, Cohn throwing any of those signature splitters. I wonder if that might be one of the, and he probably has, just haven't picked it up, but I just wonder if that might be one of the pitches somehow compromised by the elements that we were talking about before the game.
Well, I think if you ask the pitcher, the most taxing pitch in his repertoire is the splitter.
Watch him throw one here. Nope. Fastball in on the hands.
Pretty good velocity on that fastball, and now you got Wilkerson 1 and 2. You stayed in front of him, threw a fastball up and in to see if he moves that ball to a different level. Now that was an 86-mile-per-hour fastball, but he's been throwing the ball, and it's not real hard. Now there he hit a splitter grip, but he's not going to do that. Go into the glove and throw a splitter. He'll change it. No, threw it. So Coney throwing the splitter. It's now 2 and 2. But you saw he threw Wilkerson a fastball up high, and then he changed down low.
In his prime, well, there's the grip. It's a little harder to recognize now because it doesn't have the velocity and the bite that it once did. To second, Alomar, Sanchez, and a pick by Vaughn for the double play. So Cohn got the ground ball he wanted, and the Expos are done in the second. For the 2nd inning in a row, no hits. A double play means Cohn's faced the minimum through the first 2. And it is still scoreless. York Mets baseball is brought to you in part by T-Mobile. Get more minutes, more features, more services. By the New York Post. Order 12 weeks of the New York Post. Get a second 12 weeks free. Call 1-800-552-7678. And by Ford. Visit your Tri-State Quality Ford store with the best-selling vehicles in America.
Oh, Vern Rule talking to David Cohn between innings.
Probably saying, looks good to me.
Yeah, just keep doing what you've been doing. So far, no hits for the Expos and only 2 innings.
Ty Wigginton, 2 hits and 10 at-bats to start the season. Followed by Jeremy Burnett and Vance Wilson. And Ohka throws a fastball that runs in on the hands, 1-0. I guess it's basic stuff, but that's how they've been working Wigginton this week. Hard stuff in, breaking balls away, and Ty is still trying to get comfortable. Little topper, going to be a tough play for Tatis. And he got him. Nice play by the third baseman, Fernando Tatis. 1 out, nobody on. Kids, play the game of baseball the Major League way at the Mets Baseball Academy, presented by Xerox. For more information, log on to Mets.com or call 888-318-METS. 1 down in the second. Jeremy Burnett's off to a 4 out of 12 start. He's had 3 doubles with a run batted in. And he hits this one in the air to right center. Chavez on his horse, still going, and it's off the base of the wall. Burnett digs for second, and Jeremy Burnett is standing with a 2-base hit, his 4th double of the year.
That's what Jeremy Burnett had to do. He had to get off to a solid start. After all the rumors this past offseason, he takes his ball. It's out over the plate. We mentioned how Ohka is not overpowering, and he pulled that ball in the top of the right center field wall. So Burnett set the Chavez, chased this down. I don't care what kind of a hat you have on.
Maybe he's got allergies. Vance Wilson, the catcher, playing his 3rd consecutive game in Mike Piazza's absence. Mike's suspension will continue tomorrow, and he'll be eligible to return Sunday. So 1 out, Burnett's at second, and a strike to Wilson.
Well, Burnett's very comfortable against Ohka. You see the 4 for 8, small body of work, but enough, it's better than 0 for 8.
Had a home run against him last September, and a nice-looking double to start the second inning here. 0-1 to Vance Wilson, and he pops it up. Leifer, the first baseman, puts it away, and there are 2 men out.
Well, it's funny you talk about a small body of work. You got to get to a certain point, I think, when you as a hitter realize exactly how comfortable you are against the pitcher. And Burnett, I'm sure, is there now against Ohka. He's looking at 4 for 8.
Sanchez toting that 0 for 12 to the plate. He has had 2 productive outs, a couple of ground balls that scored runs. And now David Cohn will think hitting for the first time in a long time.
Pinched hit one day when he was at the Mets.
Of course, he did get a cameo appearance in the batter's box during interleague games. Sanchez takes outside 1-0.
Ohka looks like a pitcher who you would like to catch. He's around the plate, very deliberate in his motion to the plate. He's usually in the strike zone, can hit the glove, and is not overpowered.
1-1 to Sanchez. Got that fastball up to 90. That is the first time I think he has hit 90 on the gun so far.
90 is comfortable for a catcher to catch. If you get up about 98 miles an hour with some movement, that can do a job on your hand. Although catchers today, when they frame that ball, they use it with a stiff arm. You know how strong you've got to be to do that with a guy throwing the ball 98 miles an hour?
No.
Oh, boy.
No, I don't.
These kids are strong. And they take pride that the pitcher can't move their hand once they catch the ball. You used to be taught to move your hand. Whoops.
Snyder had to move for that. As Burnett holds on at second, and the count 2 balls and a strike.
I'll tell you, whoever came up with the idea to put a hinge on the catcher's glove was a genius. And speaking for all catchers, he was a saint. He used to catch without a hinge, so you had to get that bare hand down there. As you see Schneider blowing on the bare hand, trying to stay warm. Randy Hundley was the first catcher to try it in the major leagues, catching one-handed.
2-1 to Sanchez. And a liner by Tatis to retire the side. So Sanchez made a bid for his first Met hit, but the bundled up Tatis still had room to extend. And we go to the 3rd scoreless. Well, the 1988 playoffs started out inauspiciously for David Cohn, who got into some trouble for a newspaper column that riled up the Dodgers. But when they needed a win in Game 6, Cohn came through. Kevin McReynolds put the final out of the game away, and that allowed the Mets to make it to Game 7. Oral Hershiser took over there. And David was talking about symmetry. Well, symmetry just mentioning Hershiser, because Oral Hershiser was the last 40-year-old to pitch as a starting pitcher for the New York Mets. David having turned 40 this past January. Warren Spahn, Frank Tanana, and Oral Hershiser all started games for the Mets in their 40s. Fernando Tatis looks at ball one.
Warren Spahn, the most wins by a left-hander in the history of baseball, 363. Carlton was number 2, and I don't think anybody's ever going to get in that area again.
Breaking ball for a strike, 1-1. Brian Schneider, the catcher, waits on deck. Cone won 20 games twice, once with the Mets in '88 and then with the Yankees. In the air, short center. And Cedeno's there, one down.
Well, so far, only one ball has been hit real hard off the Cone. That was turned into a double play last inning. The ball was hit off the bat of Brad Wilkerson. So far, Coney's been able to keep the ball off the fat part of the bat.
So one away, and Brian Schneider, the catcher. Schneider had some problems during spring training for the Expos. He had a high ankle sprain and wasn't able to get a whole lot accomplished. When you're a left-handed hitting catcher, you got a spot. And hits the spot, 0-1.
They had a real good year last year, splitting time between Schneider and Barrett. Some pretty good numbers for that combo.
That looked like the splitter, and it's 0-2.
Last year, combined, they hit 275, had 17 home runs, drove in 77 runs. As you look at Ohka on deck.
0-2 to Schneider. Breaking ball got him. David Cone with his third strikeout, 2 men away.
Pulled the string again. The Cone heads go wild here at Shea. David Cone said, I'm not going to give you a heater to hit. Throws the off-speed pitch, gets him way out in front. We mentioned how Coney has been timed at around 87, 88 miles an hour tonight, but gets Schneider way out in front with that breaking ball.
And so with 2 out in the third, the pitcher Tomo Ohka, 7 for 55 last year, and Cone misses down and away with a fastball. It's 1-0.
Coney so far economizing on pitches.
So important for any pitcher on a night like this. And a fastball on the outside corner, 1-1. Keep going back to that word adrenaline, because that's what David talked about during spring training. 1-1 pitch on the way. 1-2. And the reason I bring it up is that I asked him if he was surprised at how well he did this spring as opposed to how he might have done last spring, and he said, nope, it was all adrenaline. A check swing, and the first hit for the Expos comes from the pitcher, Tomo Ohka, who couldn't hold his swing on a breaking ball.
Coney wanted to get that breaking ball down and away from Ohka, but he got it in an area where he see that middle of the plate, and Ohka bailing out was still able to make contact, looping the ball over Alomar's glove at second base. So Coney has faced 9 batters, and here's the first hit. Ohka keeping his head down on that ball. Well, that's the key. You're going to swing that bat, keep your head in there, and he was able to pick up a base hit.
Andy Chavez grounded to second his first time up. 1-0 to a guy who nobody seemed to believe in. Mets signed him as an undrafted free agent. Kansas City took him in the Rule 5 draft. Detroit took him in the Rule 5 draft. Mets got him back on waivers. And as he bunts foul, it's 1-1. And then the Expos picked him up on waivers, but you know why? Because the general, absolutely.
That helps. We talked about that, how it can help a player.
Omar Minaya.
Yeah, Omar Minaya, who is the general manager of Montreal, worked for Steve Phillips here in New York, has picked up players. He's known to sign. He signed Sammy Sosa, Juan Gonzalez, Omar with the great nose for talent, as they say. But it helps a minor league player if you have a manager or a general manager that's aware of your talents.
1-2 to Chavez, and how talented is he? Well, he led the International League in hitting last year.
Here it is again now. Chavez takes that breaking ball for a strike. The key is, if the manager has seen you, he likes you, you get an opportunity. Same thing with the general manager.
1-2 pitch. Breaking ball off the glove of Vaughn. And Chavez is aboard. Should be an error on Mo, prolonging the inning.
Yeah, that'll be an error on big Mo Vaughn at first base. Ball's hit hard, but Mo Vaughn, as a major league first baseman, has to pick it. But you see that ball hit the heel of the glove. It hits the heel of the glove. It's like hitting a brick wall. So right now David Cone has to regroup. Forget about that. To me, as a pitcher, that would be the most difficult thing to forget. But you got to understand that Mo Vaughn might step up late in his ball game and hit a ball over the wall and help you.
Tougher to forget when you've got a guy like Vidro coming up. Vidro drove in 96 runs last year. And Wilson keeps it in front of him, so Ohka's got to stay put. It's 1-0.
Well, he's got Vidro and he's got Guerrero behind him. Well, when you're a catcher, you're taught to get down. Ball bounces. Make sure you smother it. Wilson's got great mechanics behind the plate. He rounds the shoulders, and what you want to do is you want to smother the ball with the chest protector. You round your shoulders and you smother the ball. Watch this. Get that chest protector. Make the ball hit the chest protector. Ball bounces. Sometimes the glove gets in the way. You want the glove down so it doesn't go through the legs, but that was perfectly blocked by Vance Wilson. That's how they teach you to do it.
2-0 to Vidro, and Cone misses away. So David getting into some trouble here. Not much of it his own making, because Ohka with a half swing got himself a base hit, and after the error by Vaughn, now Guerrero's got a chance to hit here. It's 3-0. Pitch count about half of what it will be. And now Cone issues a 4-pitch walk to Vidro. And here's a real test.
Yeah.
Bases loaded, 2 out, and Vladimir Guerrero.
Well, we talked about earlier how Vladimir Guerrero is a free swinger, but he makes contact. He struck out his first time up on a bad ball. And his second strike in that at-bat was on a bad ball. Well, now the bases are loaded with Expos for Guerrero.
Check swing, an error, and a walk. That's how the Expos have loaded him up. And Guerrero going after the first pitch, fouls it back.
Oh, he's mad he missed that ball. I don't know if we have a shot of him after he walked away from the batter's box. Watch this. The good hitters usually clobber that pitch. Look at Guerrero. Look at that. Woo. Not happy missing that pitch.
That's last year. He's had 5 straight 300 seasons with 30 homers and 100 ribbies. Fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike now to Vladimir Guerrero.
Watch this, first inning. And he gets Guerrero with the breaking ball. Got him chase a bad ball to strike before that. But you don't want to get into situations with Guerrero with the bases loaded.
The 1-1. Again, that big cut and a foul ball.
And again, he missed a good pitch to hit. That's when the baseball gods are smiling on a pitcher. When Guerrero misses, look at where this pitch is. Oh.
Now, Guerrero has been somewhat vulnerable to the hard stuff up and in. He tends to go after it. If you're David Cone, do you have the velocity to go in there and up there now?
That's the key. He has the velocity because he has the ball that's going to go away.
2-2.
It's a point well taken, Howie. Does he have the velocity? But he would, because he has shown Guerrero the pitches out over the plate. You'd have to go, when you go upstairs, as you look at the Expo runners, when you go upstairs inside, if he does it, he has to be perfect because he doesn't have the overpowering fastball. Breaking ball, got him!
The Coneheads were a staple on nights that David Cone pitched here at Shea. Matt Loughlin has caught up with some latter-day Coneheads. Matty?
Well, Howie, it's a reunion in many ways, although there are some new members. When you talk about that with Andrew Levy, who was part of the original group that started back in 1988. And you guys are just juiced about what's happening tonight.
We're here. We're all back. It's like college. Some kids who haven't quite gotten off to college yet, but everyone's back 10 years later.
And you're a member, of course, of Dave's support staff, if you will, as a VP of the David Cone Foundation. which is kind of kicking up a little bit, has a story to it. I guess it was overnighted to you by your dad.
It was. I called up into Connecticut and I said, you know, where's the banner? You know, I think I have an idea that it's in the closet. If you move over. And overnight the orange pot as well.
But it's okay. It's a little crunchy, but it's okay.
Could you ever have thought that you'd be back here?
No.
I would think David would have the same answer.
Well, Andrew, congratulations, and good luck to the Coneheads, and good luck to David Cone.
How about that? David Cone with a base hit.
Oh, David Cone gets a pitch out over the plate. We mentioned how Ohka's now overpowering. Look at the swing on Tony. Hips open, head down. Slaps the ball into left field. And the Mets have their leadoff man on here in the bottom of the third.
Very nice. After all of that, you've got to call him a slap hitter. Felt like a rope to him.
Oh, it was a rope. A slap.
And now Cone, the leadoff runner at first for Roger Cedeno, who singled to center his first time up. And Roger thought about the bunt, but it's 0-1. Of course, David's always had a pretty big bat working for him, despite his 154 career average. Can never have enough lumber, huh?
Sometimes when you go to play, you're in a slump. You think you're swinging that bat. You can't get it around.
No balls, one strike, nobody out. Tatis, the third baseman, in on the grass. Leifer to second, a wide throw, and Cone is out as Cabrera just did get to the bag.
Well, Leifer makes the throw to second base, is off the base, and Cabrera what's he wearing around his waist?
Everything.
What has Cabrera got around his waist?
It's a fanny pack.
He has his wallet with him. He doesn't trust the clubby. Big Tony in the clubhouse. What is that about?
Styling, fashion. So even though the Mets spend it out, they get a pretty good exchange rate on the bases because Cone departs and the much quicker and speedier Roger Cedeno
is sending. Tony getting congratulations on his base hit. So far, he's looked good on the mound.
Well, you know the night's gone perfectly for him so far. Nice talking about his hitting.
I still can't get over Cabrera.
Doesn't trust Tony, huh? Cedeno spreading that lead out, but he's not running. And the pitch in the dirt to Alomar. Dreyfus look at what's happened to Robbie Alomar offensively between 2001 and his numbers of last season. As precipitous a drop off as anyone in the majors.
He's trying to get everybody in New York to forget about last season. He wants to forget about it.
And Cedeno just back. Of course, the other thing, Fran, is when does Alomar and several of the other players, not only on this club, but, well, let's just stay with this club for one, start thinking about not only this year, but next year and beyond, because Alomar is in his walk year. The Mets have said they're not talking contract during the season. Well, it's not a fanny pack. I guess it's just a hand warmer.
It's a big one, isn't it? Jeez.
Well, we know that David Cone owns the Expos on the mound because he pitched the perfect game against them. His last hit in the major leagues also came against the Expos 3 years ago, as a member of the Red Sox. Set up perfectly for him. One and one. Pardon me. He was with the Yankees in 2000. That was his final season in the Bronx. And Alomar taking a long look down at McDelani at third. Cone is hoping for some run support here in this scoreless game.
Keep in mind, Cedeno, a base stealer, had 66 a few years ago when he was with the Mets.
bluffs, doesn't go. That's a fair ball. So they've got a tag play at second, and Cedeno is out.
I'll tell you what, Cabrera's made 2 nice catches at second base on 2 bad throws from Leifer, the first baseman. Here is again, and Cedeno was not put in motion, is an out at second.
Fran the Bucks, scoreless. David Cone was faced with his first piece of adversity in the 3rd inning, which really wasn't his doing. 2 out, nobody on. Ohka checked his swing and dunked one into right field. Then Mo Vaughn made an error. Then Vidro walked, so the bases were loaded. And David Cone was able to shake off Mo's error and the subsequent walk, and he struck out Vladimir Guerrero for the 2nd time in the game on a breaking ball. So now as he faces Jeff Leifer, Orlando Cabrera, and Brad Wilkerson here in the 4th inning. My pleasure to hand the play-by-play over to a man who called so many of David Cone's memorable moments here at Shea, Fran Healy.
All right, Howie, and it seems like yesterday when Ed Hearn forced that trade. How about that?
Forced it, huh?
He had a great West Coast trip in '86 when Gary Carter was injured. As Leifer takes a strike from David Cone. Because of that excellent West Coast trip, the Royals were scouting the Mets. They liked him as a catcher. They made the trade that offseason for David Cone. The rest is history as Cone goes inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Leifer with 18 home runs last year with the White Sox. A lot of power. Expos will contend. They have a good ball club. Not only their everyday players, but their pitching staff. Foul off, so it's 1 ball and 2 strikes on Jeff Leifer.
They held the Atlanta Braves to just 2 runs in 3 games.
Frank Robinson's keyed up for this game. Frank was the disciplinarian in baseball prior to Bob Watson. The 1-2 pitch to Leifer. He pulls it foul, so we'll set it up and do it again at 1-2. Mets and the Expos. The Expos this season, throughout this 03 campaign, will celebrate their 35th anniversary season. Could be their last in Montreal.
Consent and au revoir.
Inside.
I think.
That's okay.
I think in French that's 35 and goodbye.
This is almost goodbye right there. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes on Leifer. And Coney gets him to foul it back. So the fans are into this ball game tonight. David Cone back as a Met. Great story. Al Leiter, John Frankel convinced him to give it a shot. He called Jeff Wilpon. They signed him. They sent him to Florida. Now he's in the big leagues. What a story. 40 years old. And Big Mo's got it. Takes it himself. 1 down.
In light of the current situation overseas, MSG Networks has made the decision to postpone tonight's scheduled MSG Networks Cheering for Children Week telethon. The dates of the telethon will be rescheduled later this summer and fall. We'd like to thank all of our viewers for the tremendous past support of Cheering for Children, and we'll let you know just as soon as the dates are rescheduled. So thanks for staying with us through all of the prior Cheering for Children Foundation telethons.
And Orlando Cabrera is the batter. Takes down low ball 1. Cabrera in this ball game struck out. Keep him off the bases. He's not known as a base stealer, but he has 21 consecutive stolen bases. Takes a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's somewhat reminiscent of a guy David Cone played with, Kevin McReynolds, who was never a huge stolen base artist in terms of 1 year, but he had a long streak of 26, 28 in a row, something like that.
Best left fielder the Mets ever had. There's a breaking ball for a strike. It's 1-2 on Cabrera.
A lot of the Expos batters doing just this, checking their swing or trying to, because they've been fooled by Cone's breaking ball.
Yeah, and what he's doing is he's getting in the borderline strike call area and dropping it out of the strike zone. He gets Cabrera way out in front. Sanchez got him. 2 down.
The left fielder, number 6, Brad Wilkerson.
So David Cone is mixing up his pitches very well, throwing refined strikes. The pitch to Brad Wilkerson, who had a good, solid year last year with the Expos out.
Wilkerson, second Rookie of the Year balloting, hit .266 with 20 homers and 59 runs batted in.
When he misses down low, 1 ball and no strikes. Wilkerson hit the ball hard his first time up, but he hit it right at Robbie Alomar. Turned to 4-6-3 double play. Outside, 2 balls and no strikes. Now the Expos are not used to playing in this cold weather because they play indoors at the Big O. One time in Jerry Park, he played outside up there in Montreal. Pulled foul. And let's take a look now at our Aflac trivia question. The 40-year-old pitcher made 20 starts after not pitching in the majors the previous season. Who is it?
Well, David Cone would like to be the second.
And the 2-1 pitch. Misses. It's 3 balls and 1 strike. 81 miles per hour the last pitch. So ball 4, Wilkerson walks with 2 men out here in the 4th inning. Watching Mets baseball on Fox Sports Net tonight. Fran Healy, Howie Rose, producer Mike Santini, director Bill Webb. Hope you're enjoying all the action. Our boy Matt Lockwood also running around the stadium. This is the first of 3. The Mets and the Expos here at Shea. Outside, Fan Fest will kick off tomorrow. Should be quite a day, weather permitting, here at Shea Stadium. As the season goes along at the Fan Fest, come out on the weekend and you see former Met players on hand. Tatis swings and misses. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Now, once again, David throwing a breaking ball. This one a slider, and Tatis has a feeble wave at it.
A few years ago, everybody was predicting big things for Tatis.
He's been hurt a lot.
Oh, yeah. In fact, a lot of people were surprised when the Cardinals traded him to Montreal. He got into Tony La Russa's doghouse and just couldn't bark his way out, so they sent him to Montreal. 1 ball and 1 strike on Tatis. And he hits a fly ball down the right field line, curving foul. So 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Afternoon game tomorrow, afternoon game on Sunday. Then the Mets go back to Florida, take on the Marlins. A tough pitching staff down there in Florida, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then it's the Mets and the Expos in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The Coneheads, 1 strikeout. Coney checks Wilkerson at first base. So the story here tonight, so far, David Cone. No score, the Mets and the Expos. And the 1-2 pitch. Ground ball to short. Sanchez goes to Big Mo. They got him. And that'll do it for the Expos. They strand the runner here in the 4th. After 3.5. No score. As the Coneheads foul. Let's go back to the Aflac trivia question. The answer that Howie Rose will tell us is that's the question. Who is the only 40-year-old pitcher to make 20 starts after not pitching in the majors the previous season?
I have no idea off the top of my head, and that's why.
You're kidding.
No, I wouldn't remember that. It's American League.
Let me think about Bert Blyland.
Talk about great curveballs. We've seen a pretty good one from David Cone, who has reason to smile the way he's pitched, allowing 1 hit over the first 4 innings. Wile had about as nasty a curveball as anyone, and you had to try to hit it.
I couldn't. Just another one, but I couldn't. Here's Clint Floyd leading off, bottom of the 4th. He takes inside, ball 1. Mets need some base runners. They need some runs. Give David Cone a cushion. You don't want to ruin a great story, do you? 1-0 on Floyd. High fly ball. Chavez under it. And he makes the grab.
By the way, if you just tuned in, we don't know. We have no idea. I mean, we can understand wanting to keep your nose warm. Everybody would like to. But nobody else has resorted to that.
No, but he also has the hand warmers that Cabrera has on. In fact, second baseman, the shortstop, they have the hand warmers. The center fielder. There it is. There it is. They get the wallets in there as Mo Vaughn fouls the pitch off. No balls and 1 strike on Big Mo. Big Mo made a big donation to the Jackie Robinson Foundation the other day. Ceremony here at Shea Stadium. No balls, 1 strike on Mo Vaughn. Hits the ball hard. Whoa! Just ate up Jose Vidro. A base hit for Big Mo.
Mets have now had a hit in each inning. It almost looked like Vidro decided at the last second, this isn't such a good idea. His intentions were good most of the way, but at the last second, never mind, it's too cold for this.
He thought, if I miss it with my glove, I want it to miss me. That's what they call ole.
I want to get hit when it's that cold. Imagine that ball skipping up, hitting you in the face.
Ty Wigginton will be the batter now. Wigginton grounded out his first time up, grounded out to Fernando Tatis, the third baseman. And Wigginton drives the ball deep, left center field. It's way back, off the top of the wall. Mo Vaughn will be held at third. Wigginton at the second base with a stand-up double. Just missing a home run.
The winds of Shea. Sammy Sosa lost 1 a couple of days ago because of the wind. Mike Piazza might have lost 1 or 2 opening day. This ball on most other nights is gone. I mean, we've seen the way the ball has been kept in the air and in the ballpark because of winds blowing in from left field tonight. And of course, when you got Mo Vaughn on first, it's almost impossible to score him with anything other than a home run.
So runners on second and third. Jeremy Burnett's the batter. He has a double in his game, his 4th double of the season. We showed you the graphic in his last at bat against Ohka. He's comfortable. Burnett takes the fastball for a strike. No balls and 1 strike. Vaughn on third. Wigginton on second base. No score here at Shea. We're in the 4th inning. David Cone doing the pitching tonight for the Mets. Burnett's swinging a bad ball. 0-2. Imperative to make contact here.
Way out in front of a changeup from Ohka. And again, that big flailing swing by Jeremy. Even a dunker would put the Mets ahead here.
Vance Wilson on deck. Got him. Big strikeout by Ohka. 2 down.
Yeah, once again, Tomo Ohka throwing that changeup down and away from Burnett's. And Jeremy just trying to do too much with it. Winds up doing nothing at all with it. And now there are 2 men out, runners at second and third. So they can pitch to Vance Wilson, the right-hander.
So important to make contact. Do something with that bat. Put it on the ball with runners in second and third. Well, you saw the runners on second and third. Vaughn on third. Wigginton on second base. The batter, Vance Wilson. Wilson doing the catching, as Howie mentioned. Mike Piazza still sitting out with his suspension. He has to eat up 4 days during his suspension. So It's up to Vance Wilson here, and Wilson takes a strike on the inside part of the plate. 0-1. Ohka, born and brought up in Japan, still makes his home in Japan. 14 Expo players born and brought up on soil other than here in the United States. They have the most foreign players playing Major League Baseball. Down low, 1 ball and 1 strike.
I think the wind is now blowing harder than it has at any time since this game started. And it feels, at least from our vantage point in the booth, as though it's blowing straight in. And you can't always tell from the center field flags. That would indicate the way the wind is blowing in. And the other part of it is players look at, I mean, Jim Turner's the only guy who ever really figured the winds out in this ballpark. He'd try and kick the ball, but 6 feet wide of the goalpost.
Well, it's 1-1 on Vance Wilson. Outside, 2 balls and 1 strike. On deck for the Mets to follow Wilson. Sanchez.
I look at those flags all the time. I think you got a handle on it, and then the ball acts somewhat differently. Not because the flags are wrong, but because the wind changes between the time the ball is pitched.
Outside, 3-1 on Vance Wilson. Look at Mo Vaughn and Ty Wigginton. I'm sure they're telling Vance Wilson to get a pitch driving. That's what Tony's thinking. David Cone worked out at Keyspan Park in Brooklyn yesterday. Wilson takes a strike, so it's full count on the Met catcher. Thinking we need a hit. 3-2. There's a drive, gap, right center field. This is extra bases. 2-run score on a double off the bat of Vance Wilson.
And now David Cone has a couple of runs to work with. He took a changeup 3-1, and then he got the fastball he was looking for and drove it the other way. Wind has been holding balls up that were hit to left and left center. That time the ball carried pretty well. And now the Mets with a 2-run lead. David Cone needing to work only the 5th inning and keep that lead to be eligible for a win.
David Cone on deck. 2 men out. Runner on second base. Ground ball. Nice play, Tatis. Will not get the runner at first. A base hit for Sanchez, and Wilson moves to third. So that'll bring up the star of Back to the Future, David Cone.
Full extension from Tatis, but he couldn't get the handle on it. Looked like it hit the heel of his glove before it finally settled in. And by then, Tatis had to pick it up again and had no chance to get Sanchez. But for Ray Sanchez, even though it was a struggle, his first hit as a New York Met.
And David Cone has a base hit in this ball game. That's what you get when you get the support of the Coneheads.
Pretty good looking hit. David Cone going the other way with it. And that last hit that he had for the Mets was in the last game he pitched for them in August of '92 at San Diego.
2 men are out. Runners on the corners. Coney fouls it back. No balls and 1 strike.
Of course, when you're a right-handed pitcher and you bat left-handed, you leave that right arm vulnerable. And David found that out firsthand in his rookie year, '87. Remember when he was hit by Atlee Hammaker of the Giants?
Yes.
Broke a finger. That was at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Yeah, and he missed about 2 months, I think it was.
He said, forget the bunt. I'll get a base hit. He's got 1 in his game. His first hit since year 2000.
Doc Gooden, the man who wore the number 16 that David wears tonight in his honor, always tried to get Davey Johnson to let him hit left-handed. Davey said, with that right arm of yours, there's no chance.
Number 16. No balls, 1 strike on Tony. 2 balls and 1 strike. Runners on the bases. Wilson and Sanchez on the corners. David Cone will be followed by Roger Cedeno. Sanchez fakes the second base. It's 2 balls and 1 strike. Schneider didn't even look at Sanchez. Sanchez was trying to fake to cause some commotion. Ohka against Cone. There goes Sanchez, swung and missed. Throw to second. Got him!
Running with the pitcher up and 2 out.
And they got him. So Sanchez is cut down at second base. First attempt to steal by the Mets. Here's the end result. But the Mets have a 2-0 lead.
David Cone's allowed 1 hit through 4. He once pitched a 1-hitter for the New York Mets against the Cardinals. Felix Jose would wind up breaking up the no-hitter back on September the 20th of 1991. This is a double to the gap in left center, leading off the 8th inning. So he'd gone into the 8th with a no-hitter, and it wasn't the first time he did it either. Now, he wound up closing out a 1-hitter, as he has so far through 4 innings tonight. He also took a no-hitter, Fran, 7 2/3 innings against the Phillies in '88. Steve Jeltz, probably doing that game, broke up the no-hitter in the 8th inning. He wound up giving up a 2nd hit as well.
Brian Schneider leads it off against Coney here in the 5th, and he takes down low, ball 1. Schneider, his first time up, struck out. He'll be followed by the pitcher Tomo Ohka and then Indy Chavez. There's Ohka. And the 1-0 pitch, swung on and missed. 1 ball and 1 strike. David Cone left the Mets. He was traded for a guy who might be a future Hall of Famer who's now in Houston. How about that? Foul ball.
You know, I remember when that trade was made, Ryan Thompson and Jeff Kent coming to the Mets. That loudmouth windbag who used to host Mets Extra just ripped that trade up and down.
Howie Rose.
That's the one, yeah. And, you know.
So you ripped the future Hall of Famer. I like that.
Get him young, I always said.
Here's the 1-2 pitch. Down and in. But I like it. You stood up. You said you were wrong. Did you?
Yeah, that worked. Meantime, you know, Jeff Kent didn't work out in New York. It wasn't until he finally got to San Francisco that he became the star that he is now with the Houston Astros.
David Cone has thrown 73 pitches in this game. He gets Schneider again. How about that?
5 strikeouts now for David Cone, and that's the splitter, which we have seen occasionally from David in this game. Pitch is probably about 6 or 7 miles per hour slower than his vintage splitter was, but still very effective getting Schneider. 5 strikeouts now for Cone.
And Coney probably sets the splitter up a lot better today than he did many years ago. There's a ground ball, base hit into center field. So Ohka is now 2 for 2.
Well, figure that. The Expos with 2 hits against Cone this afternoon or this evening. And Tomo Ohka, who had a much better swing at that one than he did in the 3rd inning, when he dunked a 2-out single to right, grounds a single into center. This is one of those, excuse me, I called it a check swing at first, but that was just a half swing by design, as opposed to trying to hold his swing. He knows what he's doing.
The key there was he got the barrel of the bat on the ball, let the bat do some work. So it's 1 man out and Ohka on first. Indy Chavez is the batter, and he looks at the pitch for a strike, 0-1.
See, Coney's smart, though. Yeah, that's a set play. Make the pitcher stay out there on the bases on a cold night like this, and he's done that twice. And thinking man's pitcher.
Ohka's got 2 hits, and Coney's got a hit, so the pitchers are 3 for 4 in this game. Chavez takes the ball. 1 ball and 1 strike. But what would Shea Stadium be without the cone heads?
A little less enthusiastic. How many more would we have had under better weather conditions?
Everybody was talking about Coney's start tonight. Pitch off the plate. 2 balls and 1 strike on Chavez.
In some ways, it makes what he's done in front of his legion of cone-headed fans here all the more impressive in these elements.
Yeah. Pulled to Big Mo. Goes to second for 1. And wisely, Sanchez felt he came off the base, so he tagged Ohka. That's all the Mets can get. Chavez can fly.
See, I think Vaughn makes a mistake here. He's got time to step on the bag and then create the tag play against a relatively slow-running pitcher. Had he done that, I think he'd have a better chance of having turned the double play. How much time he's right near the bag. All he's got to do is run the 3 steps and then throw down and try to get Ohka with a tag. And as it turns out, now you've got 2 out and a fast runner at first.
And Vidro, the batter who can handle that bat, he can take pitches and give Chavez a chance to run. Wilson can throw. He threw out 51% of would-be base stealers last season. And Vidro takes a ball, so it's 1-0. That was a 70-mile-per-hour curveball. Coney checks Chavez at first base. Wilson will be keyed up for this. When you can throw and you're behind the plate, you're keyed up when a runner can run on first base. Foul out of play, 1-1. When you're not keyed up is when you start losing velocity off that throwing arm. So it's 1 ball and 1 strike on Jose Vidro, who really came into his own a couple of years ago when Montreal brought Mickey Morandini to Montreal to fight him for that second base position. Vidro had his big year, his career year, and won the position as Coney throws a ball, so it's 2-1.
What a great Harry Callis name that is, huh? Mickey Morandini. Harry, the Hall of Fame voice of the Philadelphia Phillies. Hall of Fame guy, too.
Yeah, he really is.
Terrific person.
We have a Halls of Fame show on Harry Callis scheduled to go on this year. Terrific guy.
We called Coney's 19 strikeout game the last day of the '91 season for the Phillies, of course.
2-1 on Vidro. He swings and misses. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
This time David pulls the string on Jose Vidro way out in front of the changeup. And that guile, what we told you about at the beginning of the game, has been one of David's great resources in this not only matchup with Vidro, but all night with Deuces Wile.
2-2, here it is. Vidro, ground ball, second base. Alomar to Vaughn. And that'll do it for the Expos here in the top of the 5th inning. That's the story at Shea. David Cone. Mets have the lead as we go here at Shea Stadium, Howie.
It could not have gone any better. And that's why, and it comes clear now, Ray Sanchez was running with Cone batting and 2 out in the bottom half of the 4th inning, because they knew at that point that Cone evidently was not going to go longer than 5, and that even if he was thrown out, as David Weathers is throwing in the bullpen now, they would not lead off with Cone in the 5th. They'd have a pinch hitter.
And that pinch hitter's Joe McEwing. It's 0-1 on Super Joe, and he loops it into right field, a base hit. So McEwing on first base with nobody out here in the bottom of the 5th.
Number 19, Roger Cedeno.
So the batter now, Roger Cedeno, who's 1 for 2. He can bunt, he can slap that ball around. Pretty good speed on first base. See what Art Howe opts to do.
David told me before the game that because he threw 93 pitches in his last outing in spring training, he figured he'd get at least that, maybe up around 100. Well, we have him at what, 84? 84 pitches through 5 innings. And it just could not have gone any better for him.
Yes, it can.
Well,
he'd get the victory.
Perfect. Well, that's for later.
And Cedeno tries to bunt. McEwing dives back into first base.
I wonder, as long as you bring it up, if things don't work out in that department, does he feel any less euphoric over what he accomplished?
Yeah. You know why? Because he wants to win 200 ball games. He can get one tonight.
That's a big point. He's 4 innings away from 194.
Base hit.
So Roger Cedeno picking up a blow to left field, and runners on first and second with nobody out. And a reminder, New York Mets baseball is brought to you in part by the most respected, honored, and heroic 4x4s out there. Only in a cheap 4x4. And by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
So 2 out, or at least 2 on and nobody out. Randy St. Clair, the pitching coach for the Expos, out to talk to Roberto Alomar. Randy St. Clair, as long as we're reminiscing so much tonight, David Palmer, wasn't it Randy St. Clair who gave up that home run to Darryl Strawberry in Montreal to hit the roof of Olympic Stadium?
We did the game, and we lost the ball. I love to use that word, we. I lost sight of the ball. I mean, he hit the ball on the concrete. That was like a big home.
It was off of Randy St. Clair, opening day 88.
One of the longest home runs I've ever seen yet.
Robbie Alomar will be the bat. Runners on first and second. Now, how do you defense Alomar? He can bunt. He can hit. He can hit the ball the other way. He can pull the ball. He can bunt for a base hit. And sometimes he just bunts on his own. McEwing's on second. Cedeno's on first. 2-0. The Mets on top of Montreal. The wheel is in motion. Alomar bunts. He was bunting for a base hit right there. If he could push that ball to shortstop, he'd have a double. Art Howe pointing out. McEwing on second, Cedeno on first. The defense for the Expos.
Well, they started and stopped the wheel with Cabrera, the shortstop, breaking to third, Vidro to second. Art Howe was just yelling something out about the second baseman. Not sure if Vidro stopped or kept going towards first base. Now they don't move.
A poorly executed bunt by a guy who's 15 years in the big leagues and usually pretty adept at dropping that ball down. So the sacrifice was in order when the ball was popped up off the bat of Robbie Alomar.
Just a wasted chance for the Mets to build an inning here. Alomar knows that's something he's got to execute. You've got to get the bunt down there and give yourself a chance.
It's up to Cliff Floyd now. Floyd 0 for 2 in this game. Schneider blocking that ball. And the base runner's retreating. He's blocked by the catcher. Runners in scoring position tonight. Mets 1 for 8. Series against the Cubs 3 for 19.
Something that they are trying to eradicate from last year's unsuccessful season. Lowest scoring team in the majors, not able to cash in consistently in these spots.
And the 1-0 pitch outside, 2 balls and no strikes. Mo Vaughn on deck. Art Howe looking at.
strike, but it was called a strike, so it's 2-1, and Cliff Floyd doesn't like the call.
Fastball that appeared to be down and out of the strike zone. And according to home plate Mark Wegner, it cut the plate right at the knees.
Cliff Floyd is having a conversation with Wegner, the home plate umpire. 2 balls, 1 strike, 1 out. Ohka pitching in a deliberate fashion with runners on first and second, and he throws the fastball by Floyd.
And there's going to be a conversation on the mound here, because when he delivered that ball, the shortstop, Orlando Cabrera, was on the second base bag, and Ohka didn't check him. So Schneider's telling him to pay more attention in situations like that. Watch the pitch here anyway. Floyd swings through it. Cabrera was on the bag when the pitch was thrown and had to hustle back towards the hole in case contact was made.
That was a good shot of the catcher, Schneider, looking at something other than the ball. He was looking at his teammate on second base.
He's trying to call timeout.
And he dropped the ball. 2-2 pitch. There's a drive, deep left field. And it's going to be caught on the warning track by Wilkerson. And McEwing back to second. Cedeno to first. Might have been a victim of the wind again.
Well, again, the wind's been holding balls up to left and left center all night long. And now Mo Vaughn with runners at first and second, 2 out.
So Vaughn against Ohka. His first 2 at bats. Vaughn has a single. And he scored a run. He's also struck out. Ohka running that fastball down and away. 1 ball and no strikes.
And in case you're thinking, well, McEwing would have been at third and Cedeno at second if that bunt were executed, well, don't. Too many things might have been different. For one, they might have just walked Floyd to load him up for Vaughn and try to get the double play. And 2, the entire pitch sequence might well have been different than it was. One thing doesn't necessarily beget the next.
The 1-0 pitch, swung on and missed. I should say foul tip. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ty Wigginton on deck. Wigginton had a double his last time up. David Cone. Let's go on and hold the Expos. Coney can get the win. And a 1-1 pitch. Vaughn pulls it to the right side and gets past the first baseman, Leifer. And here comes McEwing to score. Throw to third. Not in time. So a break for the Mets. They pick up the 3rd run of the ball game. They now lead the Expos 3-0.
And that run, of course, goes to the account of David Cone right into the bank. Should have been the 3rd out of the inning. But Leifer, like he handcuffed himself trying to backhand that ball. So Vaughn made an error earlier in the game. With Vladimir Guerrero, you could never take any base for granted. His arm is that good. But McEwing scored easily after the error. Now the Mets have runners at the corners. They give Cone a 3-0 lead. And Roger Cedeno trying to get loose and turn it on, knowing he's running against the arm of Guerrero. Makes it to third. David Cone, who's finished for the night, has a 3-run lead.
And so is Ohka. He's finished. And we'll be back right after these messages. Well, that's what it's all about. Baseball and kids. And you're going to see a lot of that here at Shea Stadium this coming summer. Ohka is more concerned with being knocked out of the ball game. New pitcher, Howie.
T.J. Tucker, who pitched a scoreless 8th inning last night at Atlanta, is actually in the running for the 5th starter slot for part of spring training, but struggled and then went back to the bullpen. And by the way, they gave Mo Vaughn a hit on that ground ball. Looked like the ball actually stayed down. So Leifer tried to backhand it, expecting a hop that didn't come. I don't know if that hit a pebble, but it's ruled a base hit.
Ty Wigginton is the batter, and he looks at a breaking ball. 0-1 on Wigginton.
Pitch was up to Vaughn, and watch. Leifer was expecting a bigger hop than that. And Vaughn is credited with a base hit.
And the 0-1 pitch is down low, so it's 1 ball and 1 strike.
The Mets have scored more runs in this game, and we're only in the 5th inning, than the Braves did in 3 games against the Montreal EXPOS.
Expos dominated the Braves at Turner Field. Down low.
We're dominated them, all right. Beating them 17-2 in the aggregate 3 games. Earned run average of 2/3 of a run per 9 innings.
2 balls and 1 strike. Wigginton fouls it off, so it's 2-2. We're at the bottom of the 5th inning at Shea. You just tuned in. David Cohn's out of the game. The Mets have runners on the corners. The Mets have a 3-0 lead. Coney can pick up the victory. He pitched well tonight in 5 innings, allowing only 2 Expo hits, no runs. T.J. Tucker, the relief pitcher for the Expos, up high. By the way, those 2 hits by the Expos are now out of the game. Tomo Ohka, the pitcher, was 2 for 2.
Only man to get a hit off of Cohn, and the opposing pitcher had them both.
That'd be a difficult decision to take him out of the game. There's the fake to third, and look at first. So it's full count as Ohka can only wonder why.
Because it's 3 balls and 2 strikes.
That's right. There goes Mo Vaughn, swung on and fouled off. Well, Big Mo goes back to first.
Sure, he appreciated having to run and come back. He's trying to get over the flu. Stomach bug really knocked him out of yesterday's game, although he did pinch hit. Pop up to end it. He doesn't care. He wants more.
So do the Mets. They have runners on the corners. Got out. Good breaking ball, 3-2. Tip your cap to the pitcher, T.J. Tucker. Got Wigginton. But the Mets have a 3-0 lead.
David Cohn is out of the game, but what a magical night it was. Remember the magic that he presented on October 6th of '91? The 19 strikeout performance against the Philadelphia Phillies. Final game of the season. You saw him strike out Dale Murphy and Mickey Morandini there. And tonight, about 3:45 in the afternoon, actually, he showed up all smiles at Shea, took the mound to an enthusiastic ovation, and got to work early. Breaking ball got Guerrero in the 1st inning. And Brian Schneider in the 3rd. 5 strikeouts in 5 innings for David Cohn. He allowed only 2 hits. Just a marvelous return by David Cohn. And now when you look at where these guys line up, strikeouts per 9 innings in their careers, David Cohn for this season, a strikeout an inning. He's at 9.0 for the year, at least for these 5 innings. But I don't think David Cohn, regardless of what happens the rest of the way, that's another issue, could have expected anything better than what he was able to deliver. And now he hopes that David Weathers and the rest of the pen can hold it.
Weathers goes inside on Guerrero, and they said Guerrero went around. Guerrero's 0 for 2 in this game. We're in the top of the 6th inning. That's 3, Expos zip. Right back up the middle, base hit. So a broken back base hit. That bat shattered in 2. Say you got to jam him. When you jam him, you hope to get him out.
That must feel just delightful to Vladimir Guerrero on a night like this. That one was more up towards the end of the bat, but it still sawed it in half. It's about halfway up the bat. From that angle, looked a little bit lower down, but you get busted in with a guy who throws. Vladimir Guerrero were facing Al Leiter tonight.
Ooh.
His hands wouldn't stop stinging until August.
Well, from his past history at Al Leiter, his hands have been stinging a lot because Al really dominates Vladimir Guerrero. So Guerrero, who doesn't wear those batting gloves, still shaking his hands at first base, as the batter now is Jeff Leefer, who's 0 for 1. Guerrero doesn't wear batting gloves in the last series. Moises Salou didn't wear batting gloves. Very unusual this day and age. There's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike on Leefer.
Was it in about the 1960s sometime that ball players started wearing them with some degree of regularity, and then they were golf gloves?
They were golf gloves. You could wear them one time and they'd be all stretched. You'd have to get another pair of golf gloves. Now they get the batting gloves. And the 1-1 pitch inside. 2-1.
Who was the pioneer of that? There had to be somebody who was an avid golfer.
You know, Ralph Kiner said he wore golf gloves or batting gloves in batting practice.
Try hitting with those.
Frank never wore batting gloves. But you know, when he went out to take up the picture, he got rid of the hat and the gloves. You got to be a real man to go out there dressed like that. Foul out of play.
Not that there's anything wrong with it. He looks only a little bit less uncomfortable there than he did in October of 1969 in this ballpark.
Fans enjoying the game. They came dressed for this game. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Leefer. Big a hike. Good pitch from Weathers. 1 down. Now let's take a look at our Delta Airlines upcoming schedule.
They vote unanimously to go warm. And so, after 2 more here at Shea against the Expos, it's on to Florida to begin a road trip that will continue in San Juan, Puerto Rico against the Expos before closing out in Pittsburgh. Weekend games tomorrow and Sunday on the WB11.
And the Mets will be back in town on the 18th of the month to take on the Marlins. Orlando Cabrera fouls the ball back. 0-1 on the Expo shortstop. So with 1 man out, 0-1 on Cabrera. The Mets leading 3-0. Runner on first base, Vladimir Guerrero. Cabrera pops it foul and out of play. We mentioned that last season, Vance Wilson threw out 51% of the would-be base stealers. Gary Pettis looking at the first base coach and outfield coach for the Mets. Outstanding outfielder in his playing days. And the 0-2 pitch, pop foul and out of play again. Cabrera will be Brad Wilkerson.
Half these guys are all bundled up like Cabrera is, and there's David Weathers in short sleeves with no long sleeve undershirt.
Think he has the adrenaline going? Outside.
Got some antifreeze somewhere.
Whew. Rusty Staub never wore a long sleeve shirt in Montreal. They played outside.
He played in the World Series here at 73. Those 3 night games felt about like it does tonight, and he had those bare arms.
Outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Yeah, it's some kind of series. Cabrera just lays off that slider from Weathers, running the count even.
Guerrero holding his ground at first base.
Cal Bellman was at the game tonight.
Got out. Cabrera strikes out, and worse than that, he hits himself in the helmet with the bat. Watch this.
Pain all around for Cabrera.
Well, Saturday night at 7 on MSG, the Rangers visit the Montreal Canadiens. Geico Rangers game night leads off at 6:30. Then at 10:30, the Knicks take on those Denver Nuggets. That's Saturday night on MSG Network. Brad Wilkerson, who's 0 for 1 as a batter, and he fouls the ball back.
talking about the Rangers. They are trailing the Devils tonight 2-1 in the second period. Rangers need to win that game to keep their playoff hopes alive. Even a tie, and the Islanders will get set for their second straight year of Stanley Cup playoff action.
Way inside, 1 ball and 1 strike on Brad Wilkerson. And you see Tatis, Fernando Tatis on deck. 1-1 at Wilkerson. He takes a strike on the inside part of the plate, so it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. By the way, the Knicks are playing the Clippers Saturday, not the Nuggets. They just played the Nuggets.
Too bad they don't get another shot at them.
No.
The Clippers are much better.
There's a 1-2 pitch. He got it! So Wilkerson takes a fastball on the inside part of the plate. Guerrero stranded at first. He played 5.5. So far, it's all Mets. As the Mets sit in the dugout, watch Jeremy Burnett, who's 1 for 2 with the double, lead it off. It will be Burnett, Wilson, and Sanchez here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
It's not often, Fran, that you get a truly memorable night at the ballpark the first week of the season. But the way David Cone performed tonight under these adverse weather conditions, to be kind and brutally difficult, to be a little bit more blunt, well, this is one of those memorable nights. 5 of those Ks belong to Cone. 3 in a row from Weathers in the top of the 6th inning.
1 ball, 1 strike on Burnett. He fouls the ball out of play, so it'll be 1-2.
First week of the year, you might remember opening day for all the pageantry and the fact that it's the first one. Everything's a little bit more special opening day, but 40-year-old pitcher didn't pitch at all last year. Pitched the way he did tonight. Tremendous.
Keeps himself in real good shape. Not necessarily pitching shape until he went to spring training, but you know, David Cone keeps his weight down. It's very important. You can't go out there and be a big fella from chewing. Although there were some great players who chewed it. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Burnett. Pops it up. Playable. Easy play for Cabrera. 1 down. We'll take a look at a Jeep game summary now.
The short story is David Cone, but of course there's a little more to it. 84 pitches over 5 innings. The only guy who got any hits off him, the opposing pitcher. But he needed support, and he got some from Vance Wilson and Mo Vaughn. So the storyline has been established, and if the bullpen can finish the job, Cone will have career win number 194.
Vance Wilson fouls it back. Wilson has a 2-run double, so he caught David Cone. He said, David, I'm going to help you out with my bat. 0-1 on Vance Wilson. There's a strike. Let's go back to the 4th inning. Vance Wilson picking up his double, driving in 2. He drove in Big Mo and Ty Wigginton. Down low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. It's 3-zip the Mets on top of the Expos. 10 hits in this game as you look at Sanchez. 10 hits for the Mets. 3 for the Spos. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Got a quote book. I guess the author of the quote, Cliff Floyd. Inside to Vance Wilson.
He's talking about Vance Wilson, trying, of course, to be as diplomatic as possible, but you know, you take Mike Piazza out of the lineup, obviously there's going to be some residual effect.
And tonight's quote is brought to you by Tri-State Consumer Auto Insurance. And Vance Wilson strikes out, 2 down.
T.J. Tucker's retired all 3 that he's faced. 2 of them via the strikeout.
Used to be a famous restaurant here in New York called T.J. Tucker's.
First Avenue, right?
Yeah, Tucker Frederickson, great football player with the Giants, part owner.
At Auburn.
Tommy O'Neill, who was a producer in television, a famous restaurateur. But this is not no relation, but
we'd probably get in for free if they were still open. Read for free.
Ray Sanchez takes the strike. I don't even think it's around him.
No.
0-1 on Ray Sanchez.
This is the first restaurant you weren't sure of whether it existed or not in all of New York. You're like a walking Zagat.
You gotta chew. There's a ground ball, scored 6-3. That'll do it for Ray Sanchez and the Mets here in the bottom of the 6th. So we played 6 here at Shea Stadium. And David Cone and the Mets have a 3-0 lead. As the Mets sit in the dugout, watch Jeremy Burnett, who's 1 for 2 with the double, lead it off. It will be Burnett, Wilson, and Sanchez here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
It's not often, Fran, that you get a truly memorable night at the ballpark the first week of the season. But the way David Cone performed tonight under these adverse weather conditions, to be kind and brutally difficult, to be a little bit more blunt, well, this is one of those memorable nights. 5 of those Ks belong to Cone. 3 in a row from Weathers in the top of the 6th inning.
1 ball, 1 strike on Burnett. He fouls the ball out of play, so it'll be 1-2.
First week of the year, you might remember opening day for all the pageantry and the fact that it's the first one. Everything's a little bit more special opening day, but 40-year-old pitcher didn't pitch at all last year. Pitched the way he did tonight. Tremendous.
Kept him safe. He keeps himself in real good shape. Not necessarily pitching shape until he went to spring training, but you know, David Cone keeps his weight down. It's very important. You can't go out there and be a big fella from chewing. Although there were some great players who chewed a lot. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Burnett. Pops it up. Playable. Easy play for Cabrera. 1 down. We'll take a look at a Jeep game summary now.
The short story is David Cone, but of course there's a little more to it. 84 pitches over 5 innings. The only guy who got any hits off him, the opposing pitcher. But he needed support, and he got some from Vance Wilson and Mo Vaughn. So the storyline has been established, and if the bullpen can finish the job, Cone will have career win number 194.
Vance Wilson fouls it back. Wilson has a 2-run double, so he caught David Cone. He said, David, I'm going to help you out with my bat. One on Vance Wilson. There's a strike. Let's go back to the 4th inning. Vance Wilson picking up his double, driving in 2. He drove in Big Mo and Ty Wigginton. Down low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. It's 3-zip the Mets on top of the Expos. 10 hits in this game as you look at Sanchez. 10 hits for the Mets. 3 for the Spos. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Got a quote book. I guess the author of the quote, Cliff Floyd. Inside to Vance Wilson.
He's talking about Vance Wilson. Trying, of course, to be as diplomatic as possible, but you know, when you take Mike Piazza out of the lineup, obviously there's going to be some residual effect.
And tonight's quote is brought to you by Tri-State Consumer Auto Insurance. And Vance Wilson strikes out, 2 down.
T.J. Tucker's retired all 3 that he's faced. 2 of them via the strikeout.
Used to be a famous restaurant here in New York called T.J. Tucker's.
First Avenue, right?
Yeah, Tucker Frederickson, great football player with the Giants, part owner.
At Auburn.
Tommy O'Neill, who was a
producer of television, a famous restaurateur. But this is not no relation, but
We'd probably get in for free if they were still open. Read for free.
Ray Sanchez takes a strike. I don't even think it's around him.
No.
0-1 on Ray Sanchez.
That's the first restaurant you weren't sure of whether it existed or not in all of New York. You're like a walking Zagat.
You gotta chew. There's a ground ball, scored 6-3. That'll do it for Ray Sanchez and the Mets here in the bottom of the 6th. So we played 6 here at Shea Stadium. And David Cone and the Mets have a 3-0 lead.
All right, Fran, bottom third of the order here at Shea Stadium. Salute all those military men and women, particularly at this time. Fernando Tatis takes a strike from Weathers, beginning his 2nd inning. Tatis, evidently in the witness protection program, 0 for 2 in the game.
He might start blocking his vision.
Little number foul, and it's 0-2.
You know, years ago, I remember we were in Toronto doing a game, and on the Yankees at the time was Reggie Jackson. It was very cold around this time of year. He had a bat in his hand. He said to me, cold as heck, isn't it? I said, yes, it is. He said, you know what, though? With the money I'm making, the fans don't want to hear me complain. You know, I thought that was an interesting statement.
Like he never complained.
I complain all the time, but he wanted to throw that in there.
1 ball, 2 strikes. He just ran that through you so he can funnel it out to the people.
25 years later.
Yeah, right. Never used that before.
No problem.
Tatis tried to hold his swing, and he did not. He is punched out by Mark Wegner, and that's 4 consecutive strikeouts for Weathers.
If he was dressed like that walking back to the hotel, he'd be arrested. Watch this. Look at his head came off that ball. He just happened to be back in the dugout.
Where they do have overhead heaters installed. Brian Schneider has struck out twice. With those guys in the dugout huddling under those heaters. Got to find some way to stay warm. 1-0. Of course, a lot of guys will go into the clubhouse. Their turn at bat is not due necessarily in that inning. Anything to stay warm. 1-0 to Schneider is pulled to the right side. Easy for Alomar. 2 away.
Well, key now, throw those pitches over the plate consistently in the strike zone. Fans reacting here because the ball was thrown into the outfield as they threw it around the horn.
Didn't get it far around though.
No.
So 2 out, nobody on, and Weathers now waiting to see who the pinch hitter is going to be because T.J. Tucker is due up.
Nobody wants to come out.
Well, they're going to thaw out Mr. Carroll.
Pitch him in. Throw that fastball inside.
Jamie Carroll is going, I was perfectly content in the clubhouse, and you had to call me up. So Carroll will bat for T.J. Tucker. 2 out, nobody on. Gary Pettis, the Mets' first base and outfield coach, positioning the outfielders in. He's moving Roger Cedeno a few steps in and over. Cedeno was pulled more towards right center against this right-hand hitter, and now he's moved a step to the pull side. So Gary probably moved him over about 8 feet at least, and in a few also. Might not sound like a whole lot, but that's the difference sometimes between an out and an extra base hit out there.
And Weathers busting him in. Watch this pitch. And that thing is, not only did he throw it inside, he got it to run further in. They're going inside again.
Little bit low. Just got word that Sammy Sosa hit number 500 tonight. He did it in Cincinnati.
Mets wouldn't allow it here in New York. Scott Sullivan gave it up.
So congratulations to Sammy Sosa. Ball is flying out of that new park in Cincinnati. And Carroll hits one over towards the right field line. Burnett's still coming. And in foul territory, he makes the catch. Nice play, Jeremy Burnett. 6 in a row retired by Weathers. Time to stretch at Shea. Remind you again that if you are headed to Shea Stadium this weekend, stop by the Mets Fan Fest, presented by Chevrolet. Enjoy all kinds of fun games, live music, and a whole lot more Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays throughout the season. A couple hours before game time, you'll find it right next to that subway exit by Gate E. Promises to be a lot of fun all year. Mike Piazza should be part of the fun over the weekend. He's due to return from his 4-game suspension on Sunday. And Dan Smith becomes the 3rd pitcher used by Frank Robinson. T.J. Tucker was perfect over an inning and a 3rd in relief of Tomo Ohka. So Dan Smith will face 9-1-2 in the Mets batting order. David Weathers was superb. He will be hit for by Timo Perez. Weathers allowed a base hit to Guerrero, a broken bat single to start in the 6th, then got 6 in a row, and Mike Stanton looked so good against the Chicago Cubs. The other day comes, it's set to work the 8th inning. David Cohn, going back to the word that he used to describe this whole experience, symmetry. I guess there's some in Mike Stanton being here as well, former teammate of Cohn's with the Yankees. So Timo will bat for David Weathers. Perez, Cedeno, and Alomar. Here in the 7th inning, 1-0 to Perez. Crowd saluting Timo. Timo has 1 out of 3 so far. In the air, right field. Easy for Guerrero. And that's the first out. So Perez retired on a fly ball to right, and it brings up Cedeno. Even with the glove, blowing on that, I don't know if blowing onto a gloved hand is going to help. But on a night like this, it can't hurt.
Symbolic. And symbolism is important.
1-0 to Rogers. Had a couple of hits in this game. Singled in the 1st, fielder's choice in the 3rd, and he singled in the 5th inning. Robbie Alomar on deck. By Cedeno, and the count now even to Roger. 2 balls and 2 strikes. He has not yet, Fran, been aggressive when he's been on base. And that's something that Roger was surprisingly so last year as well. Unaggressive early in the year.
And they had the green light last year. I'm assuming that Art Howe's given the green light because you want a guy that's, when it's part of his arsenal to steal a base, you want him to be able to pick his own pitches to steal on. It's a whole lot easier to run at your discretion than to be a man who has to run when you get the sign. Roger, of course, can really set the tempo of the ball game leading off. That's why he's leading off.
And he shoots this one to left field. Wilkerson over. And there are 2 men away. So a couple of fly ball outs here in the 7th inning. And it brings up Roberto Alomar. Alomar 0 for 2. He tried to help build a run in the 5th inning when the Mets had runners at 1st and 2nd, nobody out. At the time they were leading 2-0, but he popped up a bunt. And then Cliff Floyd flied to left, and it appeared that the Mets might come away empty in that 5th inning. But then Mo Vaughn singled under the glove of Leifer at 1st. 1-1 now to Alomar. Rob's pretty excited about the series coming up in Puerto Rico next weekend.
brought up in Puerto Rico. It's a hotbed for baseball. And the Montreal EXPOS will play 20-plus games in Puerto Rico this year. I'm sure that Major League Baseball is going to focus on that very closely to find out if Puerto Rico can and would support a Major League team.
Left into center, low bridge for Smith.
Wow.
So Alomar 1 for 4, and it'll bring up Floyd.
Well, you throw it and then bang, you got to get down.
Old chuck and duck.
Chuck and duck. That's why it's so important to be able to feel that position, or at least be in position for the ball when it's hit back through the box, because the ball just explodes off the bat this day and age.
3 fly ball outs in this game off the bat of Cliff Floyd. 2 to center, 1 to left. And this bouncer, a foul ball. Cliff 1 for 14 so far as a Met. That's Souvenir. It's going to take up some room in the pocket. You don't have gloves on. You want to keep those hands in the pockets as long as you can. To Cliff downstairs. Mo Vaughn's had a couple of hits. He's hoping for a chance here in the 7th. Mets have out-hit the Expos 11-3. Lead 3-0. That's foul ball.
As you mentioned, Mike Piazza should be back on Sunday, ready to go. He's been staying in shape, taking batting practice. I'm sure lifting those weights.
Floyd playing against his former team tonight, Montreal EXPOS. Handed the mask over to former teammate Ryan Schneider.
He was the big guy in the minor leagues. I just a shot at Mike Piazza. Mets have done some great renovation around the ballpark.
1-2 to Floyd. And not before a check of Alomar.
Floyd might have been the most promising player the Expos have ever had in the minor leagues. When he got to the big leagues, he stepped into the batter's box. 50,000 people were giving him a standing ovation. He had to step out, take a bow.
Pop behind second, the shortstop Cabrera for the final out here in the 7th. So a 2-out hit by Alomar, nothing more, and now Stanton. We'll see about helping preserve this 3-0 lead for David Cone as we head to the 8th. Piazza. And now Mike Stanton becomes the 3rd New York pitcher in his 2nd game with the New York Mets. Mike, of course, teammate of David Cone's with the Yankees, and it is Cone's lead that Stanton will try to preserve here in the 8th inning against the top of the Montreal batting order.
Right there. Now face Mike Stanton. You had David Cone, David Weathers, Mike Stanton now throwing some nasty stuff.
Stanton working from the stretch with nobody on, throws a strike to Endy Chavez. And Armando Benitez getting ready to try to close it out. Sometimes you don't see Armando get up until the Mets are batting in the bottom of the 8th inning.
You need to get loose right now.
Probably should have gotten up about an hour ago.
Yeah, and the key as a relief pitcher is to know how to get warm, how to get loose. Once you're loose, you don't want to leave it in the bullpen.
Ooh. Fouled away 0-2.
Chavez with that great speed tries to drop that ball down. And it was a good move because it's tough to hit this southpaw when you're left-handed. Ball hit home plate, took a funny spin off of home plate.
Chavez against Mike Stanton here. Stanton faced 3 batters, working a perfect 8th inning against the Cubs on Wednesday night. Got Tom Goodwin on a fly ball, and then he struck out Corey Patterson and Alex Gonzalez. Nice hop for Alomar. And against the speed of Chavez, 1 man away. Well, that's a big out because it means that Vladimir Guerrero cannot hit in this inning as the tying run. 3-0 game had Chavez and this man, Jose Vidro, gotten aboard. Guerrero would have come to the plate as the tying run. Vidro walk in between 2 ground balls to second, so he's nothing for 2. And a fastball right there.
Right there on the inside part of the plate. Notice a lot of the pitchers tonight going hard inside. There's Vladimir Guerrero swinging that bat with no batting gloves on still.
The thing about Stanton, Fran, is he is no left-hand pitching specialist. You know, he is. Vidro lines this one foul. He's about equally adept against the right-handers as he is the left-handers, so you can get an inning, if not more, out of Mike Stanton.
I think that's very important. I think it's tough, and I know it's become fashionable in baseball to bring in, as you look at Guerrero, bring in a left-hander to get a left-hander up. You seem to get to take him out of the game, go back to the bullpen. If you get a left-hander with the stuff over Stanton, you can get those right-handers out. Same way you get left-handers out. He has nasty stuff.
0-2 pitch. Just missed down and in. So 1 and 2 strikes on switch hitting Jose Vidro. Previous 3 plate appearances came from the left side against David Cone. In case you're just joining us, 5 shutout innings for Cone, allowing just 2 hits, both to the pitcher, Tomo Ohka.
Yeah, once Ohka left the ball game, the Expos offense was hurt. He had 2 of the 3 hits.
One on an excuse me kind of swing, and there's El Duque. Lando Hernandez, starting the year on the DL after coming over from the Yankees.
Brothers with this ball club also.
Yep, Levon. Vidro got jammed. Wilson back hoping for a play, but that's on the screen. Levon, the half-brother of El Duque, Orlando Hernandez.
We're talking about Cuba right there.
Talking about warmer times.
They said, you know what? I don't remember getting this cold in Cuba.
Two and 2 to Vidro. Stanton, the third Mets pitcher. Breaking ball got him.
Talked about how tough he can be against right-handers, and Stanton has the good fastball. He stayed inside of Vidro and then set him up for the yellow hammer. Look at this. Back door. Vidro said it didn't get the plate. Did it? Looked like it went around the plate. When they call you out, you got no recourse.
So Vidro takes an 0 for 3 back to the dugout, and Vladimir Guerrero, the batter. Just the way you like it. Nobody on base with a 3-run lead. 1-0 to Vladimir. League leaders brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Visit your Tri-State Mercedes-Benz dealer today.
About Todd Helton, Vladimir Guerrero, number 2. Erstad, third, and Derek Jeter. Not so much that it hurts. Not so much that he got inside, but on a cold night, watch this. Boy, he has a long swing. He's one of the more aggressive hitters I've seen. As good a plate coverage as anybody who plays the game and makes contact.
Now he's just trying to stop the hands from vibrating after that pitch.
A good pitch by Stanton. Cold weather or warm weather, that hurts.
Ooh. Broke his bat. Vaughn can't reach it, and it's through into the outfield. A broken bat single for Vladimir Guerrero. Vaughn continuing to have trouble ranging for balls to his right.
Ball under his glove. The ball goes into right field, so Guerrero picks up a base hit on a ball that Mo Vaughn ordinarily would eat up.
And that brings up the first baseman, Jeff Leifer. Jay Bell is an inexperienced first baseman. Tony Clark is not. It'll be interesting to see how Art Howe employs Tony Clark when he gets here, late in ball games. You know, will Mo Vaughn occasionally be lifted in the 8th inning or 9th inning? He's due to lead off in the 8th. So I'm sure that Art Howe wants to keep Vaughn's bat in the lineup in this game at this point because he's due to lead off the bottom of the 8th. But If he weren't due up anytime too soon in the next inning, once Tony Clark's here, or we'll go to the 9th inning, I wonder if that'll affect how Art Howe employs his defense.
I think Art Howe right now is still taking a close look at the ball club, and he'll adjust just like the players will adjust during the course of the season.
Tony Clark, by the way, might be here as early as Sunday, because basically Jason Phillips is here as the backup catcher to Vance Wilson, and then when Piazza comes back, they could send Phillips down and bring up Clark. Bafer tries to hold a swing. He did not. It's 1-1. And you've got other defensive possibilities.
Look at that last pitch, and Bafer was unable to check the swing. Breaking right down and out of the strike zone.
That's Tsuyoshi Shinjo, a solid defensive outfielder on the bench. Should Art Howe eventually decide that he wants to go to a defensive platoon late in games? It's hit in the air towards Burnett's in right. And that retires the side. So Stanton does his job, allowing just a broken back ground ball to get by Vaughn, but Mo will lead off in the last of the 8th with the Mets up by 3. To the 8th inning. It is 3-0 New York. The runs belong to David Cone in his return to the big leagues, and Mo Vaughn, Ty Wigginton, and Jeremy Burnett will try and lengthen the lead. Give Cone, who was taken out of the game after 5 outstanding innings, a little bit more wiggle room. Bullpen's been solid. After Cone, David Weathers pitched 2 innings, allowing just a hit and striking out 4.
Howie, you asked earlier, would it be any less exciting if David didn't get the victory after pitching well? Because
for David, not for the fans, I mean for David.
I think it would be. Obviously, you have to control that emotion, but David Cone, when you're
deep to right field, Guerrero back, that's a gunner, and Cone can stick another run in his pocket. It's 4-0 New York. Tonight for Mo.
And that's what Mo does best. Mo power. He smoked that ball over the right field wall. And Art Howe has to be elated. It took Mo a while to get it going last year. And he uncorked that baby.
First home run of the year for Maurice Vaughn. And now Wigginton. Beaten by the fastball of Dan Smith. It's 0-1. Vaughn's obviously feeling better after sitting out yesterday's game, save for that 9th inning pinch hit appearance because of the stomach flu. 1-1 to Wigginton.
Yeah, watch Mo Vaughn turning this pitch. In spring training, he talked about he was able to open up, and he was open there and smoked that ball.
Second RBI of the game for Mo, and first 2 RBIs of the season. 2-1 pitch to Wigginton. Breaking ball for a strike. And the count 2-2. Slider and a full count. Nobody out here in the 8th. 4-12-1 for New York. 0-4-0 for Montreal. Fastball and Wigginton's gone. He obviously doesn't think so. Smith does. Wigginton started down to first base.
Again tonight we see another fastball inside, and sometimes it's just tough to pull the trigger. This is good location. Right on the corner. Could have gone either way. unfortunately for Ty Wigginton, it went against him.
Jeremy Burnett's 1 out of 3. Got a well-hit double in the second inning up the gap in right center. Two balls and no strikes. And ball 3. So
you know, you might want to go for an insurance run right here, Howie. No, taking all the way.
4-0, 8th inning.
Power hitter, fastball hitter, Mo fastball hitter. Vance Wilson on deck.
3-1, and now a full count.
3-0, you're going to get the best pitch to hit. As a catcher, you put the sign down, you say, here, throw me a fastball, you put the glove in the middle of the plate. That's why I'm a big believer that guys should, everybody should have a hit sign 3-0 until they prove they can't do it.
He goes up the alley in left center. And this one goes to the wall. Burnett's on his way to second as it's kicked around a little by Wilkerson. But Jeremy holds on with his second double of the game and his 5th double of the year.
5 doubles so far this year for Jeremy Burnett. Ball out over the plate, and he scalds the ball to left center field. See Wilkerson having trouble picking up that ball. And Burnett's, when he had the play in front of him, he thought about 3, but wisely jammed on the brakes.
Burnett's was one of 5 players to start the night with 3 doubles in the National League. Now he's got 5, and Vance Wilson will try and bring him around. Wilson drove in 2 with a double back in the 4th inning to give Cone the 2-0 lead. 0-1 to Vance.
Frank Robinson. You know, he said it's a little cool at Shea tonight. Frank has become an avid golfer, I understand.
All right, he wasn't before,
I don't believe so. He was a disciplinarian before.
Not tried disciplining that golf ball. 0-2 to Wilson. Players are easier to discipline than titleists.
Mo hit that baseball like a titleist over that right center field fence.
Got him. Wilson down on strikes for the 2nd consecutive time. 2 men away.
This has been a clean, crisp ball game as you look at Wilson swing over that pitch. And it all started out with David Cone. And Coney was throwing strikes and getting ahead of the hitters, changing speeds and mixing in all his pitches.
So here's Ray Sanchez, who had his first Met hit. Infield hit off the glove of a diving Fernando Tatis in the 4th inning. Outside for a ball. We're talking before about how you see Jay Bell on deck to hit for Stanton. We're talking about how Roberto Alomar is all excited about playing those games in Puerto Rico. Ray Sanchez is glad to be going back there. He had a somewhat different spin on it, though. He says, well, it's nothing new to me. I live there. It's, you know, nice that we're playing there, but doesn't mean anything a whole lot in particular to him, the way it seems to Roberto Alomar. Not as much, anyway.
Major League Baseball on the island. It's got to be a huge thrill for the folks down there in Puerto Rico.
Fouled away 1-2. And don't get me wrong, he's happy and excited about going back, but he was more nonchalant about it. Look at Burnett's at second.
Will Major League Baseball ever have a home permanently in Puerto Rico? It's been a hotbed for baseball. If they do have a home, it'll ruin winter baseball.
Just to watch winter baseball on TV with a great Buck Canal at the mic. Inside to Sanchez. Now a throw down to second, and Burnett's is out. Jeremy was caught wandering off of second base.
I'm not so sure he was out. Art Howe's not sure either. In fact, maybe he is sure he was safe. Take a look at this again. Jeremy Burnett got a little bit too aggressive. Now he heads back. Was he safe? Well, that was closer than I thought. Take another look. The throw. Safe.
Oh, he's safe.
Can you believe that?
He's safe by a lot.
Got to be careful when it's on TV.
I still say it was safe.
Every Tuesday and Wednesday means Mets baseball on MSG. Mark your calendars and MSG Network will deliver the games.
And it's hit deep to left center. Home run by Piazza.
Twice the amazing action, double the intensity. So shift your appointments, reshuffle your schedule, and turn a double play with the Mets. Every Tuesday and Wednesday only on MSG Network. This is our time.
It's not technically a save for Armando Benitez, but certainly everybody in this ballpark, other than those in the Montreal dugout, would like to see Armando nail this down for David Cone. It's been his night. And Benitez gets Orlando Cabrera to foul the first pitch back.
I think managers now are starting to think, let's be more concerned about winning the ball game. Forget about the saves for the short man on the pin, because the short man is not getting any respect anyway, according to the voting.
In the air, left field against the wind, and it one hops the wall. Floyd up with it, and Cabrera's got himself a double. It helps the Mets that they worked through Guerrero in the 8th inning.
And here's that fastball that had nothing on it. Cabrera hits the ball hard to left field, and the ball bounces off the wall. So Cabrera on second base with nobody out.
And Brad Wilkerson, who grounded into a double play, walked and struck out. Will be the batter. 5th hit for the Expos. The Mets have 13. Jay Bell now at first base. We talked about the defensive ideas of Art Howe relative to Vaughn at first. There's Bell now. Tony Clark may get some of those responsibilities later.
And keep in mind, he kept Mo in the game. Mo hits the home
for the bat. Right.
Mo's out. It's 4-0 instead of 3-zip.
Fastball for a strike. 1-1 to Wilkerson. Good night for Mo with 3 hits, including the home run.
Mo's always been a decent first baseman, so it must be difficult to come out for defensive reasons.
2-1.
And if you're a player, and you've played as long as Mo Vaughn or any of these other guys, you're very competitive with a lot of pride.
So Mo provided some offense in support of David Cone's pitching. 2-1. Downstairs, 3-1.
Tough to be a manager. You have to make some tough decisions, and you make a decision whether or not to help the ball club as you look at Cabrera on second base. Art Howe made the decision to put Jay Bell at first base. I'm sure Mo Vaughn will have trouble digesting.
3-1 pitch, and that's a strike. Full count now to Wilkerson. We believe that's Fernando Tatis.
Started off right below his chin when the game started.
Got him. So Benitez comes back to strike out Wilkerson, 1 man away.
And here's that last pitch. Good ball movement. Hits the corner of the plate, runs off the plate, unhittable.
So 1 down, and Tatis somewhere in there, settling into the batter's box.
Say, now what happened your last at bat? Well, I couldn't see.
Runner takes off from second. Nobody looked at him. And Cabrera strolls into third base. Never once checked. With a 4-run lead, the only thing that does is disturb the shutout potential. 4 now.
Yeah. And Cabrera reaches third base uncontested, and might be scored in difference.
It is. Defensive indifference. 0-2 to Tatis. Well, in some ways, this reminds you of Tom Seaver's dramatic return on opening day '83. That was opening day, so the place was filled. The weather far better than it was tonight. But similar emotions, I'm sure. Tatis fouled it away. The Cone heads came back tonight. Brian Schneider on deck. That day in '83, Seaver was superb. Left after 6 with no run support. They ended up winning it for Doug Sisk. 0-2 to Tatis, and he's gone. And now the Expos down to their last out.
When you see somebody go to the plate with his face covered like Tatis, you do have the upper hand. And I mean, it's almost like he didn't want to be at the plate. He swings over that pitch. You could say he pulled his head, but pretty much he had trouble seeing the ball from the get-go. Armando Benitez now getting loose and throwing the ball hard.
These players wouldn't remember, but it's like old-time April and Jarry Park in Montreal.
Sure.
Now Schneider takes outside. 1 ball, no strikes.
A lot of teams play in this type of weather early on. I mean, you don't like it. I mean, baseball's to be played in warm weather, but look at the strikeouts tonight. Mets pitching tonight, 12. Series against the Cubbies, 20.
5 for Cone. 4 for David Weathers. Mike Stanton 1. Benitez 2. 1-1 to Schneider. Overthrew that one. And the count 2 balls and a strike. Benitez just rearing back, got that one to 95. He's trying to end this thing and keep the shutout. More importantly, the win for Cone with Cabrera at 3rd and 2 out. 4-0 Met lead. Benitez delivers. And Schneider late on the fastball, 2-2.
Schneider had trouble with David Cone. Cone mixed up his pitches very well and got him with off-speed pitches. David Weathers looking on. Armando Benitez throwing the heat to Brian Schneider with 2 out here in the ninth.
Armando ready, but time is called. Time has been called by the third base ump, Gary Sitterstrom.
Ball was loose.
Armando was oblivious to the timeout call. He was reared back and fired.
So this could be Coney's night from the get-go to the end.
All it takes is another strike. 2-2 to Schneider. Benitez deals. The Bucks. Art Howe. And the New York Mets are at 500. But in some ways, David Cone is on cloud 9.
Who would have thought David Cone from a bowling tournament, a charity bowling tournament, to back in the major leagues and another victory for Coney. The Coneheads are elated. So are the Mets. Montreal losing to the Mets. They were shut out 4-0. And David Cone back to the future.
April 5th of '83, 20 years ago tomorrow, Tom Seaver came home and shut out the Phillies through 6th, helped by that double play. Mike Howard had the 2-run single. Doug Sisk, the winning pitcher. Tonight, David Cone's night. And what a night it was.
And he mixed up his pitches very well from the get-go. He had the Coneheads laughing in the aisles. And he brought a smile to Dave Cone's face. So David Cone, Tom Seaver, the man on the left, the franchise, went on to win over 300 games and get highest percentage of votes in Cooperstown history.
198 Met wins for Seaver and now 81 for Cone, the winning pitcher for the first time in 2 years. And as a Met for the first time since 1992. 5 shutout innings of 2-hit ball for Cone. The bullpen was superb, and the Mets win it 4-0. We'll be back.